Long before, Bai Ningbing and I had already developed a mutual admiration. She and the newly popular young idol were causing a stir with their on-screen chemistry. We were both chosen by the CP fans to see which celebrity couple they most wanted to see divorce, and we topped the list. For the sake of the headline, the company arranged for us to appear on a divorce-themed reality show. The host asked us if we wanted a divorce. We exchanged a glance. In unison, we both said, "Divorce? No way. I want to be with her." Then the production team dug up a letter. It was a love letter Bai Ningbing had written to me when she was 7 years old. The handwriting was tender and youthful. Each stroke was carefully crafted. "I really like you. I like you so much. We'll be together forever." On the divorce reality show, the host read aloud from the live chat. Viewers want to know, do both of you still want a divorce? Our faces appeared on the big screen. Even though the camera was stretched to make us look wider, her face still looked utterly stunning. The delicate features of her face were partially hidden by the collar of her white shirt. Instantly, the comments section exploded. "Why is my phone screen so wet, Mom? Wife, 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 wife. My wife is so beautiful. I'm lost in Bingbing's peerless beauty every day. I can't imagine anyone wanting a divorce when faced with this face. Truly being blessed and not knowing it." Bai Ningbing's long legs in her slim skirt. In the cramped space, she seemed a little constrained, yet she still tried to move farther away from me. We exchanged a glance. In each other's eyes, we could see the disdain. This woman! She acts all graceful and composed in public. No one knows just how difficult she is behind closed doors. Anyone who wants to stay with her is crazy, we both said in unison. "Divorce!" We exchanged a look of mutual disdain, then turned our heads away. The host seemed a little awkward. He continued asking, How did you two end up on this divorce reality show?" Bai Ningbing leaned back on the sofa. She casually responded, "Because we were voted. We topped the list of which celebrity couple do fans most want to see divorce. It was arranged by the company. It was a poll initiated by a certain social media platform. Our names Bai Ningbing and I. We dominated the poll with an overwhelming lead. And most of the votes came from fans of her and Wong Tang's CP. Wong Tang is Bai Ningbing's junior. Bai Ningbing often brings him along for filming. A couple of months ago, they starred together in a youth romance drama that blew up. There are countless videos online of fans obsessing over their CP. Even I, her husband, watched one. During the red carpet event, Wong Tang stood in the corner, affectionately adjusting Bai Ningbing's dress. Bai Ningbing lifted her gaze at him. The love in her eyes was nearly overflowing. The theme of the video was sweet romance, with a light, romantic soundtrack. If I weren't her husband, I could hardly resist the temptation. Countless comments were urging them to get married on the spot. Just then, my secret marriage with Bai Ningbing was exposed. The CP fans were utterly devastated. They dug up numerous past moments of Bai Ningbing and me together. By then, our relationship had already hit rock bottom. We often undermined and criticized each other in public. Later, Bai Ningbing gave an interview. The reporter asked her what she regretted most in her life. Bai Ningbing fell silent for a long time. Then she replied, "Getting married, I guess." And just like that, we were pushed into the spotlight by the frenzied CP fans, probably to deliberately create a buzz. The host played a VCR on the big screen. Let's take a look at what both sides' friends have to say about this marriage, though they called it both sides' friends. The one who appeared on screen was Wong Tang. He smiled warmly at the camera. "Ningbing is a great partner at work, and she's also someone I deeply admire as an elder sister. I think Ningbing, whether in work or life, is someone who knows how to take care of others. She's truly outstanding. I hope such an exceptional person like Ningbing can find her own happiness." I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. They asked him to comment on our marriage. But all he did was praise Bai Ningbing from start to finish. If Bai Ningbing is so perfect, then what about the problems in our marriage? It all became my fault for being unreasonable. Sure enough, the barrage of comments suddenly exploded. Wong Tang is so handsome, even in a direct camera shot. He looks amazing, wow. Am I the only one who thinks his words sound a bit fake? He was supposed to comment on their marriage. But what is he even saying? Stop mindlessly hating on him. Haha, if you're fake yourself, you'll see fakeness in everyone else. To be honest, I still think Fang Yuan isn't good enough for Bai Ningbing. Wong Tang and her really have such strong CP vibes. I hope she divorces Fang Yuan and ends up with Wong Tang. I agree with the comment above. Bai Ningbing clearly doesn't like Fang Yuan, and Fang Yuan isn't worthy of her anyway. Why is he still clinging to her and not letting go? I remained expressionless. Truthfully, I didn't want to be on this variety show either. Our marriage was already a mess, and now we had to display it in front of the entire nation. How humiliating. But the company told us, since you've already decided to divorce, why not milk the last bit of hype? 3 million per episode. Who would say no to that kind of money? Fine. After these 3 months, we could finally go our separate ways for good. That night, as we prepared to sleep, Bai Ningbing grabbed her blanket and left. I frowned. Where are you going? Without turning back, she said, I'm sleeping in the living room, from start to finish. She didn't even glance at me. I didn't stop her. We had been sleeping separately for a long time anyway, in front of the cameras. There was no need to pretend. On the sofa, her phone kept lighting up. Through the crack of the open bedroom door, I could see the faint smile on her face. Her fingers moved quickly as she typed, probably chatting with Wong Tang. I lay flat on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Suddenly, for no reason, I thought of the past. Back then, Bai Ningbing and I also had those moments where we shared everything. We would talk about our thoughts and feelings late into the night. She would be so tired she could barely keep her eyes open, but she'd still cling to me, whining and refusing to sleep. Just a little longer, she'd say. Her hair would tickle my neck, and I couldn't help but laugh as I pushed her away gently. Do you know what time it is? You need to sleep. Do you not have work tomorrow? When did it start? This shift to having nothing left to say to each other? It seemed like it began when she started sharing her thoughts with someone else. The next day's segment of the variety show was a heart-to-heart session. The host asked each of the guest couples, why do you want a divorce? I thought for a moment and said, because we can't keep going like this. The host glanced at the live comments and said, but there are so many fans who adore Bai Ningbing. Everyone is curious. Bai Ningbing is so beautiful, and she became an award-winning actress at such a young age. Someone with both looks and talent like her. Why would you want to divorce her? Good looks don't put food on the table. I shrug. We barely talk anymore. What's the point of staying together when we can't even stand the sight of each other? And what about you, Bai Ningbing? The host turned to her. Bai Ningbing pinched the bridge of her nose. Her nose was high and elegant, with a slight bump in the middle. That didn't detract from her beauty at all. Instead, it made her features even more distinctive. Her disdain was almost undisguised, because we don't have anything in common anymore. Over the years, I've been busy filming outside, and we've grown apart in so many ways. Coming home is either silence or endless arguments. She sounded impatient. It's exhausting. The comments exploded. I feel so bad for the award-winning actress. She's out there working hard to earn money, and her husband just fights with her when she gets home. Why did she end up with someone like him? Exactly. I really hope they get divorced. Wong Tang is the perfect match for her. Did you see their videos together? The way Bai Ningbing looks at Wong Tang, it's obvious she likes him. I really hope they end up together. Fang Yuan doesn't deserve her at all. I couldn't help but fire back. Yeah. It's hard to have common topics with someone who's married but still flirts with other men for publicity. Can you stop being so unreasonable? Bai Ningbing frowned. We were promoting the new drummer. Not everyone has a mind as dirty as yours. Just as we were about to start arguing, the host quickly stepped in to mediate. Do you regret being together in the first place? Bai Ningbing didn't hesitate to nod. Of course. The biggest regret of my life is marrying him. I lowered my head. My nails dug into my palms, the sharp pain slowly numbing. Then how did you two end up together in the first place? The host continued to ask. The question caught both Bai Ningbing and me off guard. It was something that happened so long ago. It felt like a lifetime away. We got together when we were 17, and now 13 years had passed. Did Bai Ningbing confess first? I frowned, trying to recall. No, she was the one who pursued me. Bai Ningbing scoffed. Why would I ever fall for someone like you? You must have been the one who wouldn't leave me alone. Just as we were about to start arguing again, the host smiled and pulled out a small metal box. Don't fight, you two. The answer is right here. I was stunned. That metal box was something I had given to my agent, asking her to pass it on to the show's production team. Inside were fragments of memories from Bai Ningbing and me. Old letters, postcards, and other mementos. But it had been so long. I couldn't even remember exactly what was inside. The host pulled out a yellowed piece of letter paper. The camera zoomed in. This is a love letter Bai Ningbing wrote to Fang Yuan when she was 17 years old. Let's take a look, shall we? Bai Ningbing and I exchanged a glance, both seeing confusion in each other's eyes. The worn-edged letter was slowly unfolded, revealing the youthful and slightly awkward handwriting. To Fang Yuan, today my parents had a talk with me. They told me I couldn't fall in love too young. They said it was just a fleeting impulse. I wouldn't like you for long, but I believe I will like you forever. I will like you again and again. We will always be together. Each stroke, each letter, written with utmost sincerity. Memories long forgotten, rushed back to my heart. That was the Bai Ningbing I hadn't seen in 10 years. The 17-year-old Bai Ningbing. She wasn't as refined as she is now, and hadn't yet been shaped by time into a face so unrecognizable. Her hair stuck to her forehead, damp from running. Her sportswear was stained with dirt from who knows where. Her eyes were bright. Her smile was wide, bold, and full of life. Fang Yuan. She hopped over, bouncing to my side. Her eyes were sparkling with excitement. Did you see me running that lap just now? Was I fast? I purposely didn't praise her. I didn't notice. Her enthusiasm dropped instantly. But soon, she lifted her face with a smile. It's fine. I'll run it for you alone to see. Who's the one you want to show off to? I gently pushed her. We playfully laughed and wandered into the alley. The sunset slowly stretched our intertwined shadows. Bai Ningbing stared fixedly at that piece of paper. It seemed as if she had been entirely taken by this letter from 10 years ago. Her soul was trapped in that yellowed paper. She remained completely still. In her eyes, countless complicated emotions flashed in an instant. The host asked the question again that I had previously avoided. Mr. Fang, do you regret being with Bai Ningbing back then? Bai Ningbing's hand trembled slightly. She turned her head to look at me. I lowered my gaze, staring at that piece of paper. After a few seconds of silence, I quietly spoke. I don't regret it. Back then, we loved each other so much. Our youthful love was pure and deep. How could we have imagined that it would come to this? To the point where we'd grow to despise each other? Why must you make me remember those beautiful times? If I hadn't remembered them, I wouldn't have realized just how unbearable things are now. How could we have once loved each other so passionately? But those feelings couldn't withstand the ravages of time? Bai Ningbing's gaze was distant, somewhat lost. She opened her mouth. It seemed like she wanted to say something, but in the end, she said nothing. The comment section was filled with sighs. It makes my heart hurt to watch this. I thought it was Fang Yuan who was clinging to Bai Ningbing, but it turns out she was the one who initiated it. She used to love him so much. How could she just stop loving him now? Young love is always like that. I've seen you at your most beautiful, and I've also seen you at your worst. We've been through the good and the bad. The novelty wears off, and suddenly, we're interested in someone new. I think it's still Fang Yuan's fault. Bai Ningbing is a top actress now. She can hardly keep up with the pace of others. Shen Xiao really suits Bai Ningbing better. It's been over a decade since all that happened. What's the point of bringing it up now? How could anyone still like someone after so many years? Yeah, that was 13 years ago. That year, Bai Ningbing and I were 17. Young love was as fiery as a blaze. We burned with passion without a care in the world. But now, we're about to turn 30. The love that burned for so many years has long since quietly extinguished in the river of time, leaving only a pile of ashes that can no longer burn. That evening, Wong Tang came to visit the set. The other guests and crew members looked at me with awkward glances. I walked over. I saw Wong Tang pull out several high-end Japanese bento boxes from his bag. His tone was sweet and a little coy. I know you probably don't like the food on the set. You're so picky. I just packed this up for you. It's from your favorite place. Hurry up and eat. His attitude was so casual. It was almost as if he was Bai Ningbing's husband. Bai Ningbing sat next to him, not saying a word. She seemed a bit lost in thought. It seemed like she was thinking about something. When she saw me, her movement froze for a moment. Wong Tang's lips curved into a smile. Brother Fang, want to join us for some? Bai Ningbing's not picky. When filming, she never eats the crew's boxed meals. I'm worried about her stomach, so I brought her food. You wouldn't mind, would you? The wife of one of the other guests couldn't help but exclaim, "Wow!" She turned her head away. Clearly, she didn't think much of Wong Tang's cheap attempts at flirting. I gave a calm smile. If you don't mind humiliating yourself in front of everyone, why should I mind? With that, I turned and walked away. Wong Tang's face turned pale with anger. The other guests couldn't hold back their laughter. This wasn't the first time Wong Tang had tried to provoke me, and it wasn't even the worst of the times. A year ago, my mother was seriously ill. I got the news in the middle of the night, and I completely broke down on the spot. I had moved far away for Bai Ningbing's sake. To get home, I had to take a flight that would take hours. I aimlessly called Bai Ningbing, but after countless attempts, she didn't pick up. In the end, I had no choice but to board the flight home in despair, alone. The midnight red-eye flight cut through the night sky. I stared out the window. It felt like my tears would never end. 4 hours later, when I finally landed, I had cried myself dry. I couldn't cry anymore. Family members told me. My mother had held on for a long time, waiting for me to return. But I was still too late. Not a word was left for me. She didn't even have time to look at me once more. My father had passed away long ago. I had to handle my mother's funeral arrangements alone. It was during the hardest time for me. Wong Tang sent me a WeChat message. It was a photo of Bai Ningbing and him. He was looking directly at the camera, and Bai Ningbing was looking at him from the side. Her eyes filled with tender affection. Sorry, Brother Fang. Yesterday, Bai Ningbing was celebrating my birthday and didn't take your call. I heard your mother passed away. I told her she should go back to you immediately, but she insisted that my birthday was more important. He sent a smiling emoji. Don't blame Ice. It's all my fault. If you want to yell at someone, yell at me. That was the first time I realized that when pain reaches its peak, you don't cry or wail. The unbearable pain. Instead, it traps you in a numbness, like time has frozen. My eyes couldn't see anymore. My ears couldn't hear. I lost all sense of feeling. It felt like centuries had passed. That deep, venomous pain slowly bloomed from my heart and spread through every vein. I slowly knelt down. I pressed my chest tightly. In one night, I lost the two people I loved most in this world. My mother and my lover, the one who had been by my side for 12 years. Bai Ningbing arrived the next evening. I looked at her. For the first time, I didn't argue with her because of Wong Tang. In the past, whenever it was about Wong Tang, we'd always make a huge mess, chaotic and loud. She would watch coldly as I cried, screamed, and threw things. I'd be hysterical, not caring about a shred of dignity. But this time, I suddenly didn't want to say anything anymore. I calmly dealt with everything. I boarded the flight home alone. That evening, I sent her the divorce agreement documents. It was impossible. The divorce didn't happen in the end. At that time, Bai Ningbing had already signed a betting contract with the company. Once the divorce involved property division, it would be a nightmare. Her agent kindly explained to me. They advised me to wait until her bet was over, then divorce. As compensation, they promised I would get 10% more of the assets. From that day on, Bai Ningbing and I had completely torn our relationship apart. The fire that had burned for so many years was finally completely extinguished. The next day, the production team sent us to a basement. They told us to stay there. Food was limited to just 3 bowls of instant noodles. The host smiled at us. According to the production team's research, this basement is where Mr. Bai and Mr. Fang stayed before. Now, we hope you can spend another night here to relive some of the memories and emotions you once had. I walked into the damp, dimly lit, cramped space, and I felt a little bewildered. This was indeed the basement where Bai Ningbing and I had once stayed. 7 or 8 years had passed, yet nothing had changed here. The exposed water pipes were still leaking. Drip, the sound echoed. The room, which could barely fit 3 small beds, had no table at all. Only a small window above the toilet. Even in the morning, no sunlight reached the room. Bai Ningbing and I sat on the bed. We glanced at each other in silence. After a long while, she stood up and made a bowl of instant noodles. She frowned and said, "They only gave us 3 bowls of noodles today. We'll have to divide them into 3 meals. 1/2 for each of us." It had been many years. Yet here we were again, sitting on the bed, sharing a bowl of instant noodles. Though the environment hadn't changed much, the reality was that everything had shifted people and circumstances. Bai Ningbing furrowed her brow slightly. She had barely eaten once before losing her appetite. The noodles in my mouth tasted bland and unappetizing. I quickly set down the soggy noodles. Neither of us ate any more. Well, of course. She was used to Wong Tang's gourmet meals by now. How could she go back to eating 5 yuan instant noodles? The room fell silent. To people who no longer loved each other, trapped in this cramped space, it only made everything feel uncomfortable. Just as I was thinking of finding an excuse to step outside, the small TV in the room suddenly turned on. After the static cleared, Bai Ningbing's face appeared on the screen. It was a VCR that the production team had played. I froze for a moment. It was the young Bai Ningbing. She was holding up a phone with one hand, taking a selfie. With her other hand, she placed a marinated egg into the bowl of noodles. Bai Ningbing at 22. The youthful innocence in her eyes had faded, but those eyes were still as bright and shining as before. Her smile resembled a crescent moon, gentle and curved. She proudly placed the bowl of noodles in front of me. The chef's exclusive recipe, braised beef noodles, special edition with marinated egg. I pouted. Not again braised beef noodles. I wanted pork bone noodles. She poked my forehead with her finger. At least you have something to eat. There were no pork bone noodles downstairs. I went to 3 stores, none had them. I'll go again tomorrow. You eat this for now. I even added an egg for you. I tugged at her sleeve, laughing mischievously. Come on, eat it. She gave the camera a helpless yet proud smile. My husband is too clingy, but I can't help it. Alright, I'll reluctantly eat with you. We ate the noodles, head, finishing the entire bowl. By the end, Bai Ningbing lifted the bowl. She drank the broth completely. She couldn't help but sigh. My cooking skills are just too good. One short video after another. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, Bai Ningbing cuddled up behind me. The cold air in the room seemed to freeze the very walls. I was shivering uncontrollably. It felt like the electric blanket wasn't even giving off any warmth. I trembled and asked Bai Ningbing, "When you win Best Actress, will you take me with you on the red carpet?" Of course, she didn't hesitate at all. "I'll be sure to thank you first. I'll say I'm grateful to have the best husband in the world. If it weren't for my husband, I wouldn't have made it this far." I laughed as I pushed her. "You've got to be kidding me." She couldn't help but laugh too. "Complimenting you and you're calling me crazy?" Just then, my stomach growled loudly. I rubbed my empty stomach. I couldn't help but sigh. "Ningbing, when do you think we'll finally get to live a good life?" Bai Ningbing paused for a moment. Then she forced a smile. "Soon. My friend said she'd check with her company in a few days to see if they need any new talent. No, I'll go look around for any acting groups needing extras." Her voice sounded a little empty. "Fang Yuan, you've been through so much hardship with me. Do you regret it?" I turned over and hugged her. With a cheerful grin, I said, "No, I haven't endured any hardship. You even made me the special edition braised beef noodles." "It's fine, Ningbing. I'm just saying things off the top of my head. As long as we're doing well together, I'll be satisfied." Bai Ningbing didn't say anything. She just held me even tighter. After a long time, when I was half asleep, she whispered, "Fang Yuan, I won't let you down. I'll make sure you live a good life." Bai Ningbing and I didn't say anything after watching the video. In truth, I had almost forgotten these memories. During that time, Bai Ningbing loved documenting our lives. But later, as she got busier, she stopped taking photos. Once Bai Ningbing succeeded, it seemed like she had firmly decided to sever ties with the past. She never mentioned those things again. Later, Bai Ningbing did win Best Actress. But the one walking the red carpet with her wasn't me. It was Wong Tang. Their photo made headlines, and it flashed in front of my eyes for a long time. She didn't thank me. She thanked the production team. She thanked the staff. She thanked Wong Tang, her co-star. But she never thanked me. The color drained from Bai Ningbing's face. She slowly turned her head. It seemed like she wanted to look at me, but didn't dare to. She could only lower her head. The woman who once swore she wouldn't let me down had long since discarded the promises of that time and had let me down completely. "I'm sorry." Her voice trembled. "Fang Yuan, Her fist clenched. Her voice, strangely, seemed to choke with a suppressed sob. She couldn't force herself to continue. I replied calmly, "You don't need to apologize to me. I believe that when you said you wouldn't let me down, it was sincere. But you just stopped loving me. That was sincere too." The comment section exploded, the number of messages multiplying by several times. Oh my god. Turns out Fang Yuan has endured so much hardship for Bai Ningbing all these years. Now I kind of understand him. If I had been with a woman through so many years of hardship, she became successful, but now she's playing up a public relationship with another man, I'm definitely angrier than him. Bai Ningbing wasted such a beautiful face. I never expected her to be such a trashy woman. UA7. Wong Tang has really gone off the deep end. Huh? Isn't this just classic third-party interference? It's not like Bingbing forced Fang Yuan to suffer with her. He chose it himself, so who can he blame? And anyway, when Bingbing became famous, wasn't it the money she earned? He didn't touch a cent of it. Stop pretending to be the victim. Later that night, when I was about to sleep, Wong Tang called again. Bai Ningbing, who usually answered right away, this time just glanced at it, then swiped to hang up. She sat at the corner of the bed, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't. "How should I sleep tonight?" There's only one bed. I turned to look at the bed. A 1 meter 5 single bed. Bai Ningbing and I squeezed together on this bed for 3 years. At that time, although we struggled, our hearts were full of love for each other and hope for the future. Was it hard? No, it didn't feel hard. Now she's successful, wealthy, her future shining bright. She says I was the one who ate the bitterness with her. That's true. But all this bitterness in my heart, it's been accumulating for so many years. I stood up and softly said, I'm going out. You sleep. Bai Ningbing grabbed my arm, her voice unexpectedly laced with a hint of pleading. Fang Yuan, we haven't slept together in a long time. Don't you remember? We used to be so happy here. Wasn't the goal of this place to help us find the feeling we once had? Don't go, please. I slowly pulled her hand away. Bai Ningbing, I haven't forgotten. It's you who forgot. Bai Ningbing looked as though she had been struck by a punch, her face pale as a sheet, silent. Then she slowly bent down. Yes, you're right. She smiled bitterly. It's me who forgot. I became rich. I couldn't wait to leave behind the failed version of myself, and in the process seeing you again. I can't help but think of those days when I was at my lowest. Rather than saying I don't want to see you, I'd say I can't stand you. But really, I just loathe the person I used to be. Sorry, Fang Yuan. She tightly covered her face. You didn't forget, but it's me who forgot. I forgot how much I once loved you. I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to say. In fact, having come this far, we had long run out of things to say. A long time passed. Bai Ningbing stood up, her eyes still red with bloodshot veins. She forced a smile. I'll go out for a bit. You sleep. I won't bother you here. Saying that, she turned and walked out the door. After a long while, I heard a muffled sound from outside. A hard swallow, strained and unspoken, full of sorrow. I gazed at the moon outside the window. It was the same moon as before, but the atmosphere inside the room had changed, and so had the people. This divorce reality show became a hit, especially the romantic lives of Bai Ningbing and me. The hot topic surrounding the former award-winning actress's love life captured the attention of the onlookers. Discussions about us were everywhere. At that moment, a marketing account suddenly posted a short essay. The reason why Bai Ningbing likes Wong Tang so much was because back when she was still a newcomer, Wong Tang had helped her connect with a resource, which was the role of the second female lead in a drama. That opportunity earned her the Best Newcomer award that year, and she shot to fame. So Bai Ningbing has always been very grateful to Wong Tang. Recently, Wong Tang had been attacked online by netizens, being called the third party who ruined someone's marriage. But now, his reputation was turning around. It's unclear whether it's paid comments or just netizens, but everyone started commenting. Wong Tang is actually really kind. There's no need to call him a third party. He didn't do anything wrong. If it were me, I'd also feel positively about Wong Tang. He's easy to talk to, and he helped me out when it mattered most. Plus, he's good looking. I think Bai Ningbing's feelings for him are completely understandable. Yes, Fang Yuan did live with Bai Ningbing in the basement for a few years. But later on, it was Wong Tang who stayed by her side. Without Wong Tang, there would be no her today. Wong Tang frequently appeared on interview shows. When the host asked him if he had anyone he liked, he simply smiled sadly. Yes, she helps me a lot in both work and life. She provides me with a lot of guidance. I really admire her. But she already has a partner. We met too late. These words were very pointed. The netizens who were just watching the drama were in an uproar. Oh my god, this is such a good ship. When I fell in love with you, you already had someone else by your side. I still think Bai Ningbing's love is really for Wong Tang. Fang Yuan is just there out of a sense of responsibility. Fang Yuan knows Bai Ningbing doesn't love him anymore. So why won't he let go? He's really selfish. Why not just let Bai Ningbing be happy? How come the person upstairs makes the third party sound so fresh and innocent? It's like their values follow their appearance. At that moment, Bai Ningbing's agency and the staff of Xingchuan also posted a Weibo update. The gossiping netizens said that Wong Tang was the one who connected Bai Ningbing to the role. Was it in the City of Splendor? The second female lead? If I'm not mistaken, this role was actually given to Bai Ningbing by Fang Yuan. Previously, Fang Yuan was also in the industry. There was a director who had high hopes for him and wanted him to play the male lead in the City of Splendor. Fang Yuan wanted to bring Bai Ningbing along, but the investors said that Xingchuan only had one lead role to offer. The rest had to go to other companies. So it was Fang Yuan who gave up his male lead and pushed for Bai Ningbing to take the second female lead. At the time, he didn't want us to talk about it, but all of his staff knew. How did it become Wong Tang's connection? Are you making us forget what really happened? We all knew the truth. As soon as this Weibo post went up, the internet immediately exploded. Several staff members from Xingchuan came forward to confirm it. Even the cast of the City of Splendor was dragged into it. The director of the City of Splendor also stepped in to confirm it. Bai Ningbing hurriedly pushed open the door and rushed in front of me, her face filled with excitement. The role back then was given to me by you. I nodded. Yes, back then, Bai Ningbing had been struggling with auditions, hitting a wall at every turn. She was feeling very down during that time. She even told me several times that she wanted to give up being an actress. Meanwhile, I was slowly starting to land some roles. And eventually, I got the role in the City of Splendor. That day, when I got the male lead, I was so happy and couldn't wait to share the good news with Bai Ningbing. But when I arrived, I found her sitting on the balcony, dejectedly smoking incense coils. The floor was littered with cigarette butts. Her face was gaunt, and the light in her eyes had completely faded. Her voice was lifeless. I went for an audition today, and I was rejected again. Do you think I'm just not cut out for this? That night, I didn't sleep a wink. The next day, I went to recommend Bai Ningbing to the director, but I didn't tell her. She was a person with a lot of pride. If she knew that the role was traded for mine, she would never accept it. The City of Splendor was a great project. It set a new high for ratings that year. The actor who replaced me is now a top-tier, wildly popular leading man. But I've never regretted it. I only found out today that Wong Tang took the credit for it. It's kind of ridiculous, but I'm no longer bothered by it. Why didn't you tell me? Bai Ningbing's jawline tightened, and the emotions in her eyes surged like a hidden storm. What do you think? I laughed bitterly. She stopped in her tracks. Bai Ningbing understood it herself. I was trying to preserve her dignity. Her body trembled slightly. She took 2 steps back. I didn't want to say anything more to her. I stood up and walked out. Wong Tang's reputation took another sharp turn. Wong Tang is truly shameless, isn't he? Not only did he steal someone's credit, but now he's after someone's husband. What kind of scum is this? Wong Tang's life is ruined. People like him should be driven out of the entertainment industry. State administration of radio, film, and television. Shouldn't such a disgraceful celebrity be banned? Fang Yuan is truly pitiful. Woo-woo-woo. In order to protect his wife's dignity, he had his nest taken over by another man. He regrets ever sincerely shipping their CP. Fang Yuan is truly a good person. It's Bai Ningbing who isn't worth it. Wong Tang kept calling Bai Ningbing. Bai Ningbing didn't answer. He went straight to the production team. At this point, he had lost his usual calm demeanor. Crying, he shouted at the door, "Ningbing, please come out and talk to me. I can explain everything. It's all a misunderstanding." Bai Ningbing walked out. She looked at him coldly. It was as if she were staring at some trash. "Ningbing, listen to me, Wong Tang's image. He rushed forward, wanting to embrace her, but she quickly dodged, stepping away. He could only kneel on the ground, crying out in despair. I admit I was blind and deceived you, but our years of relationship weren't fake. Don't you care about me at all? He cried, his face streaked with tears, looking like a wilting pear blossom. So pitiful. His eyes were swollen, like overripe peaches, but there wasn't the slightest trace of pity in Bai Ningbing's eyes. Wong Tang, you disgust me, she said with revulsion. Get lost, don't ever show up in front of me again, or else you'll know the consequences. Wong Tang stared at her in disbelief. His gaze then shifted to me. There was a hatred in his eyes, sharp as a knife. It's you, isn't it? You did this on purpose. You just wanted to ruin me. You wanted to sever our relationship. You can't stand him liking me. I walked over. Standing tall, I said, "What did I do? Did I force you to deceive her?" Wong Tang was silent. "What relationship have I ever severed between you two?" I mocked. "Why don't you tell me? What kind of relationship could there possibly be between a single man and a married woman?" Wong Tang gritted his teeth. Unable to utter a word, I couldn't even be bothered to look at him anymore. He had no idea the real show was still to come. A few days later, Wong Tang's scandals were all exposed, including his late-night secret meetings with a married male director, beating and cursing staff members, and threatening to cancel performances last minute. But those weren't the worst of it. The worst was that one of his staff members reported him directly to the tax authorities. He had evaded taxes amounting to 37 million. The evidence was irrefutable, and just like that, Wong Tang's career was completely ruined. All his endorsements were dropped. All the ads he had signed were hastily withdrawn. All the dramas he was part of were pulled from airing. He was blacklisted. He would never appear in the industry again. And some of this, a small portion, was due to money I spent. But most of it was the work of his competitors seizing the opportunity. Wong Tang had just earned a small fortune, but the fines from the tax authorities and the penalties for breaching endorsement and drama contracts added up to a sum that was astronomical. Even if he sold all his assets, both movable and immovable, he wouldn't be able to make up the difference. Wong Tang was finished. The variety show was nearing its end. The final segment was a husband and wife teamwork challenge for survival. Bai Ningbing and I had to climb a mountain together. We would camp on the mountain for a day. But unfortunately, when we started climbing, the sky had been clear and bright. Suddenly, a layer of dark clouds covered the sky. Thunder rumbled loudly. Purple lightning flashed across the horizon. A torrential downpour poured in an instant. The mountain path, already difficult to walk, was now made even worse by the heavy rain and strong winds. The raindrops, the size of beans, hit so hard that I could barely keep my eyes open. A dense fog enveloped the entire mountain. When it rains, it pours. In this weather, we actually got separated from the production crew. The mud under our feet was too slippery. As I was climbing, I slipped and suddenly fell down. Bai Ningbing in a flash grabbed me. Just before I hit the ground, she hugged me tightly. We both fell into a ravine. I landed on top of her, so I wasn't hurt. But her calf twisted at an unnatural angle, turning pale from the pain. I was horrified. Bai Ningbing, are you all right? In the pouring rain. She looked like a drenched chicken, yet she still managed a faint smile. I'm fine. I won't die. We just stayed there, getting soaked in the heavy rain. The mountain rain came fast, and it left just as quickly. Soon the rain stopped. Amid the mess on the ground, Bai Ningbing leaned against a tree. Her complexion grew worse and worse. She couldn't even move. I was panicking. But there was no signal on my phone. I couldn't reach the production team. I yelled out for a long time, but no one responded. I leaned against the tree and forced a bitter laugh. Could it be that we're going to be trapped here to die? But Bai Ningbing laughed. Since we had a falling out, I hadn't seen her smile much. She curled the corners of her lips. Her eyes were gentle. Well, at least you're here with me. If we die here, die. I gave her a sideways glance. If you want to die, then go ahead. I don't want to die. She fell silent for a moment, then suddenly spoke. Fang Yuan, I'm really happy. I couldn't help but curse at her. Are you out of your mind? Your leg's broken, and you're still happy? There was cold sweat on her forehead from the pain, yet her eyes were full of a relaxed, joyful expression. We haven't been like this together in a long time. I'm really happy. I didn't respond to her, and started shouting for help. Bai Ningbing's leg quickly swelled up. The sky gradually darkened. If we don't leave soon, we might freeze to death on this mountain tonight. After a while, Bai Ningbing spoke again. You go first. Go back and find help. Come back and rescue me. I froze. But she pretended to be indifferent and said, I'm such a big-time movie queen. The production team won't give up on me. You should hurry and go down the mountain first. The mountain is so big. Finding one person is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Going down the mountain is easier. There's a small path that can barely be recognized here. Just follow it. But finding someone to come back up here. What if it rains again later, and this path is washed away? Then Bai Ningbing might really not be found. Her leg is so badly injured. And it's because she tried to save me. I couldn't just leave her here. After a moment, I gritted my teeth. I grabbed her arm firmly. Can your other leg still move? I'll carry you down. The ravine here is relatively flat. If we go slow, it should be fine. Bai Ningbing's expression was complicated. You don't have to worry about me. Just go ahead. I was getting impatient. Stop talking nonsense. Get on. She looked at me steadily for a moment, before finally letting me half-drag, half-carry her. Although Bai Ningbing had a slender figure, she was still a 168 centimeters tall woman. I nearly collapsed under her weight. Luckily, I used to be an athlete, so I could still manage to take one step at a time down. We were both completely drenched, and the heat from Bai Ningbing's body transferred to mine. When she laughed, her chest trembled. Fang Yuan, you still can't bear to leave me behind. That's just who you are, soft-hearted to a fault. You can never bear to leave others behind, no matter when. Yeah, I replied lightly, always trying to be the good person. So now I'm getting my comeuppance. Bai Ningbing fell silent. After a while, she leaned against me, whispering in my neck. I know I was wrong. Can you give me another chance? Please, I beg you. As she spoke, her voice trembled, with a hint of barely noticeable pleading. Fang Yuan, you didn't leave me behind. You still love me. Don't you? I was about to say something, when I suddenly heard someone calling our names from afar. Then the production team and the rescue squad pushed through the branches and emerged. It was like a life-after-death relief as they exclaimed, We found them! The words I wanted to say caught in my throat, and in the end, I couldn't speak them. Bai Ningbing's leg was fractured, but fortunately, there was no major issue. The injuries were mostly superficial. With some rest, she would recover. A few days later, the production team began filming the final episode. The theme of this episode was reconciliation and reflection, as well as revisiting the questions from the first episode. Should we divorce? Ms. Bai and Mr. Fang have come a long way, encountering many difficulties, but they've also overcome many obstacles together. Now, Ms. Bai, do you still regret getting married? Bai Ningbing shook her head. I used to be so foolish. Sometimes people walk so far that they lose their way. Only when you look back do you realize just how ridiculously wrong you were. I don't regret it. Marrying Fang Yuan was the best decision I've ever made in this life. The host pulled up the live comments. Woo really shipping them now. I hope they can reconcile. I think Fang Yuan shouldn't get back together with her. Once betrayed, why keep hanging onto this one tree? But Bai Ningbing really knows she was wrong. Shouldn't we give people a chance to change? I agree. I hope they can get back together. They really loved each other before. It's such a shame for them to be apart. What about Mr. Fang? The host asked me. I didn't hesitate. I still don't regret it. When we got married, I truly loved her. There's nothing to regret. Bai Ningbing's expression slightly changed. So, do you still want a divorce? The Bai Ningbing, who had once firmly declared she wanted a divorce, was now silent. I don't want to get a divorce. After a while, she spoke softly. I know it sounds shameless. I hurt you. And now I don't want to let go. It's selfish, isn't it? She smiled bitterly. A hint of red appeared in her eyes. But I really don't want a divorce. Fang Yuan, please give me another chance. I swear I won't hurt you again. I wanted to smile, but I couldn't. How long had I waited for these words? Too long. Sometimes I would dream of Bai Ningbing telling me, I was wrong, and I won't treat you like that again. Will you forgive me? But when I woke up, all I saw was her indifference. Does she have no real feelings for Wong Tang at all? I don't know, but I think at least there's some fondness. Whether it's gratitude or novelty, her heart has truly drifted away. I used to love her deeply, then hate her just as much. But having come this far, I realized I no longer loved her, and I didn't hate her either. All that remained was the indifference of strangers. Maybe this variety show will give her some beautiful memories, reminding her of how deeply she once loved me. But for me, it was just another painful reminder of the things I had forgotten and the wounds I had buried. It reminded me of just how deeply this person had once hurt me. Turning back would mean damnation. I spoke softly. I still want a divorce. A flicker of hurt passed through Bai Ningbing's eyes, and her whole body seemed to stagger. With red eyes, she swallowed hard and pleaded, please think about it again. I know I was wrong. I was terribly wrong. You can hit me, scold me, punish me however you want. Bai Ningbing was a person of immense dignity. But now, in front of the cameras, she cried out in anguish. Fang Yuan, I don't want a divorce. Please give me one more chance. Let's not divorce, okay? She clung to me desperately. I can't live without you. I smiled and gently pried her fingers off one by one. Now, I'm going to answer the question you asked that day. Bai Ningbing froze for a moment, then suddenly realized something. Her face went pale with shock. Her expression turned frantic as she cried. I don't want to hear it. Don't say it. I don't want to hear it. The production team was stunned, watching her lose composure but not daring to intervene. I spoke slowly. Bai Ningbing, you asked me if I still love you, and now I'll tell you. I don't love you anymore. Not at all. The final episode wrapped up quietly. When I left, Bai Ningbing was still collapsed on the floor, crying her heart out, like a child who lost their favorite toy. She knew I would never turn back. When I love someone, I love them passionately, and no matter the outcome, I never regret it. But when I no longer love, I won't drag it out, and I will never look back. After the episode aired, the attention on both me and Bai Ningbing surged. I had more supporters, and many criticized her, but she had a lot of loyal fans, so she didn't face much immediate backlash. In the end, we went to the courthouse to finalize the divorce. Bai Ningbing gave all of her assets to me, leaving with nothing. She forced a bitter laugh. I can't be good to you anymore, so I can only compensate you this way. I didn't refuse. 3 months later, I was woken up in the middle of the night by a phone call. My friend's voice was full of panic. Bai Ningbing announced her retirement from the industry. I opened Weibo and saw Bai Ningbing had just posted an update. Thank you to all the friends and fans who've loved and supported me over the years. Starting today, I will be retiring indefinitely, and I will never return to the industry. Sometimes when you walk too long, and the dazzling world blinds your eyes, you forget what your original intention was. The recording of this show reminded me of when I first chased my dreams. In truth, it was only to make sure he wouldn't suffer with me anymore, so he could have a better life. I didn't want this world to hurt him, but in the end, the one who hurt him the most was me. I walked this path because of him, and for all these years, he's been by my side. I habitually ignored him, but now I realize, without him, I can no longer continue on this path. Once again, thank you to everyone. I hope you all cherish those you love. Don't wait until you've lost them to realize how much they mean. Goodbye. I stood there, lost in thought. My friend continued to ask, she's retired from the industry now, and she gave all the money to you? How are you going to live from now on? He gently urged. I think Bai Ningbing was sincere with you. She truly understands her mistakes now. You've been together for so many years, it wasn't easy. Why don't you forgive her? I forgave her. But who will forgive me? I lowered my gaze. It's precisely because it hasn't been easy all along that her giving up so easily cannot be forgiven. We've weathered the storms together. I thought we would be special, but I never realized that it's easy to share hardship, but hard to share joy. If I forgave her, then what about those nights of silent tears? The torment of a shattered heart. What am I supposed to do when I face her again in the future? I will always think of Wong Tang. I will never get over the pain in my heart. I will torture myself for the rest of my life. My friend fell silent. I hung up the phone. I lay on the bed. I thought I wouldn't be able to sleep. But before I knew it, I had fallen into a deep sleep. In my dream, I was back at 17. I was sitting with Bai Ningbing on a speeding train. She rested her hands on her face, looking at me with a smile. I became a little shy under her gaze. I scowled. Why do you keep looking at me like that? She raised an eyebrow, her cold, sharp eyes carrying a hint of allure. I'm looking at my husband. What's it to you? After some playful banter, she seemed to have grown a little. Now she looked like someone in her early 20s. She brought over a bowl of beef noodles, her eyes filled with mischief. Master Bai's special braised egg and beef noodles are here. We sat head to head, sharing the same bowl of noodles. She held the braised egg up to my mouth. Eat it. I took a bite. My mouth stuffed full. Mumbling, I said, 1/2 for you, 1/2 for me. The train continued forward. She had grown older. Now, wearing a delicate wedding gown, she looked at me, speaking clearly and slowly. I will be your wife. From today on, we belong to each other. We will support each other. No matter if it's good or bad, rich or poor, sick or healthy, we will love and cherish each other. Only death can separate us. I knelt on one knee, sliding a ring onto her ring finger. The people around us clapped, blessing us. Time slowly passed, and people came and went. The people around us changed. And so did we. We stopped talking, stopped looking at each other. Even when we occasionally made eye contact, it was cold, with no warmth at all. In the end, we didn't even sit together anymore. Finally, the train came to a stop. I gathered my luggage to get off. Bai Ningbing suddenly panicked, stood up, and shouted at me. Where are you going? Our eyes met through the crowd, and I smiled slightly. I'm getting off the train. From now on, you go your own way. Bai Ningbing rushed to follow me, but the train doors had already closed. We could only stare at each other through the glass. She was desperate, tears streaming down her face as she pounded on the window. Feng Yuan, get back on. Where are you going? I'll go with you. I just smiled and waved at her. Goodbye. Bye, Ningbing. I'll stay with you until here. She screamed in despair. And then the train started moving. Our figures grew smaller in each other's eyes. As the train whistled forward, eventually we disappeared from view. I closed my eyes. A tear slid down my cheek. It dropped onto the pillow, soaking it with a deep mark. On the journey of life, sometimes we are destined to walk a part of it together. But in the end, the connection is too shallow, the feelings too fleeting. So quickly, it's time to say goodbye. From now on, the sky is high and the road is long. The mountains are high. The waters are long. And we must walk our own paths. Goodbye.